We're gonna start. Iris on. Can we have our cameras on? Awesome. Hey, okay. So everyone, does it sound okay to everyone? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So welcome to FILAH's career panel. Thank you for coming. Thank you for our wonderful panelists for making time to be here. Okay, so before we get started, we just want to start with the land acknowledgement.
A moment to acknowledge the people of the lands we are collectively occupying during this meeting.
For thousands of years, the land upon which UC Davis occupies has been the home of the Patwin people, including the Yocha-Dihi Winton Nation, the Cashel-Dihi Band of Winton, and the Quetzal-Dihi Band of Winton today. The Patwin people remain committed to the stewardship of this land. It continues to be cherished and protected, as elders have instructed the young through generations. We acknowledge the painful history of genocide in the United States for Native and Indigenous peoples. We honor and respect the many and diverse tribal nations and peoples who were forcefully displaced from, as well as those still connected to this land. We hold with love our responsibility to honor the land, the original tribal occupants, and the history of the places we reside. Further, we have a responsibility to continually self-educate, reflect, and listen to the histories and people in the spaces we occupy. If you want to find out what land you are on, visit native-land.ca. And here is going to be the agenda for tonight's panel. So first we'll go over some introductions, both like the club and then our panelists. Then we'll have general questions, which will be open for any of the panelists to answer. Then we'll move into individual questions. These will be panelist specific. For this section, if you have any questions come up, please just take note of them. We will have an open Q&A. We'll have a form out so you can ask your questions then. After the individual questions, we will have a quick 5-minute break. So do anything you need to do, but this is also when we'll be taking in the audience questions and then looking over them. And then we'll move into the audience Q&A and then just closing announcements and then a little group picture at the end. So what exactly is FILAH? If you haven't been to a FILAH event, we are Filipinx in liberal arts and humanities. So our motto is expression is everything. We are open and welcoming anyone who just wants to have a creative outlet. We encourage all forms of creative expression and we aim to create a space for it. So you do not have to be part of the FILAM and you do not have to be in liberal arts or humanities. So for example, I'm actually a STEM major, but I just have a lot of creative outlets and I believe in FILAH's mission. And with that, my name is Keiko. I am FILAH's Prez.
I'm Keila. I'm FILAH's designer and culture kid.
Hi, I'm Issys. I'm the outgoing vice president and social and outreach chair.
Hello everyone, I'm Tyler and I am the vice president and videographer for FILAH.
Hi, I'm Mac. I'm the publicity chair and the academic chair.
Now we'll go to introducing our panelists.
Do the in-person ones first and then virtual.
Oh yeah. Can you do your name, your job, your education, and what was your dream job when you were young?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. Hi everyone, I'm Kathreen Fontecha. I'm a lecturer here at UC Davis in the design department. So that's one of my jobs, but also on the other side, I also do freelance graphic design for nonprofit organizations. Let's see. Profession, background. So I did my undergrad here at UC Davis as a design major. So I almost never left. And also did a master's in information design and strategy. at Northwestern. What I wanted to be when I was younger, typical of all Filipinos, I only knew of two professions, nursing and engineering. So I thought that I wanted to be one of those. I couldn't cut it in the nursing side, so I thought I would be engineer, but I couldn't cut it in the math side. But all throughout, I guess I kind of did design stuff like that. So kind of became a part of me. And then I guess other thing that I also wanted to do after I watched Twister for the first time, I wanted to be a storm chaser too.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Pangelina. I also go by Panji. I am, let's see real quick. I'm the Associate Director for the Lotus Mana Center here on campus, so you see the pronouns. A little bit about my background. I went to Laney Community College, transferred to UC Berkeley, and I got my degree in American Studies with a concentration in social justice, public policy, and poverty. And then I went to San Diego State where I got my master's in post-secondary educational leadership with a specialization in student affairs. Dream job. I wanted to either be an anchor on the news or be on the radio. That's what I wanted to do. I was originally supposed to major in communications, but that changed.
Okay, Iris, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Iris Jamahl Dunkle. I am a writer. I write biography, poetry, essays, and I'm also a scholar. And I teach as an instructor at UC Davis, and I teach an MFA program at Dominican. My background is I've always wanted to be a writer since I was little. I just didn't know that was like a profession that you could have because I grew up in a family where, that wasn't modeled for me and there weren't any writers in my small town. So it wasn't till I got to college that I discovered that you could have a career as a writer, and that's what I've done ever since with many side jobs along the way. I've written 7 books. The 8th one is under contract right now. I've written 2 biographies and 4 books of poetry. And I'm currently have a big project that I'm working on, which is taking me to the Arnold's, which is Arnold Schwarzenegger's competition. I do weird things as a writer. So I'm going to watch the Strong Woman competition, which is these like giant women that are lifting really heavy things, to write a book that kind of looks at our cultural biases about strong-bodied women and how America kind of wants our women to look weak.
Thank you. And if you could introduce yourself as well.
Hi, I'm Ann Yatco. Forgive me, I'm getting over a cold, so I might be a little raspy tonight. I am a voice actor, and I have a master's in fine arts and acting from the California Institute of the Arts, but I also have a bachelor's in science in biomedical engineering from Marquette University. Um, when I was a little girl, I really wanted to be an astronaut or a pop star. And then that somehow morphed into wanting to be a doctor. And then eventually I became an actor. So I'm all over the place.
Thank you so much, everyone, for introducing yourselves. And again, thank you for coming to
Giving us your time. With that, we're going to start off with our general questions. So I'll just repeat, any of the panelists are free to answer this. So if all 4 want to answer, go for it. If only 1 or 2 want to go, that's perfectly fine as well. Okay, so first question. First question is, what piece of advice did you wish you had or taken while you were in undergrad?
Response to that.
Oh yeah. Kat will be going first.
Okay, is this? Oh, there you go.
Oh, this is it. I'll just be looking right here.
Here? Okay. So there's this Filipino word called saya, which essentially means they're failing to capitalize on an opportunity. And you're paying so much for your education, it feels like a triumph if you don't take into if you don't take advantage of all the resources that the U Davis community has for you. So things like just so many books that we have available for us through the university. They're paying for a lot of the memberships for these digital books and everything like that, and all the clubs around where you can go learn from different people. Actually, I didn't realize that FILAH was here when I was an undergrad. Like I saw, like Kayla told me what the group was, and I just kept saying like the whole thing. But then it just connected just a few minutes ago that FILAH. It's like, oh, I remember that. I should have joined that. So like there are so many clubs that I could have joined, and there's so many more now too. And in addition to the clubs, in addition to like the physical resources, just the wealth of knowledge of all the instructors around. And I mean, in a lot of the big lecture halls, there's not maybe technically to just like hop in, just learn a little bit of something. And essentially you are paying for it as part of your student fees, but there's just like this wealth of resources available to you. And not just the resources, but also like these hidden gems that you might not see elsewhere. The fact that we have so many museums on campus, our archives over in the library that has like a lot of like old books and everything like that, museums. So I think just taking advantage of all of the resources is something that I would have wished that would happen. Also, just putting yourself out there, going out and just, meeting people, talking to people, and go see what perspectives that they have and how then you can learn from them and maybe bring it into your own personal perspective as well. Yes.
For me, advice that I wish I had been given as a transfer student having 2 years at my 4-year institution, I did not take advantage of our career center when I was in undergrad. I ran there like the last few weeks of my semester and just trying to get my resume reviewed. And I was unaware of all of the other things that they could have helped me with. And I thought that I was going to land a job easy once I completed undergrad. I was like, oh, I'm going to get a degree from Cal. It's going to be easy. It took me 6 months of like applying and interviewing and applying and interviewing. And there was a roller coaster of emotions because you get a call back or you get invited. There's like excitement there. And then they're like, oh, we're going with somebody with 3 to 5 years of experience or their master's. So it was just kind of like an emotional letdown. So I wish I would have taken advantage of our center, and that's something that when I meet with students, especially if they're early on in their college career, I let them know like your time here is when you're building your resume and your experiences. So I stress that they go and engage with the career center as much as possible.
And Iris, would you also like to answer that?
I think the advice that I wished I would have taken while I was an undergrad is the idea that I had every right to be there. I grew up in a family where I was a first generation college student, and so when I got to college, I felt completely like I didn't belong there, and I felt like I was in Washington D.C. I went to GW, which was I grew up in Sonoma County, in rural Sonoma County, and so I felt completely out of place in a big city. And it took me like a couple years to feel like I belonged there. And I think if I would have gone in, if someone would have told me, you got into the university and you should feel confident that you're supposed to be here just like everybody else, I feel like that might have helped me settle in. So I do try to encourage my students to, believe in themselves, whatever path they want to take as they go through school and they move towards a career. Because I think we have this set of idea that we grew up with what we're supposed to become, and especially if you come from a family that hasn't given you a lot of models for what that looks like. It's really, I think it's just such a gift to just give yourself the agency to become who you want to become in your life, and to really believe in your gut and where it's taking you.
Um, uh,
my answer was going to be about appreciating the value of your education, but also like in that vein, like, you know, remembering that you spent this much money to get this education. I think I didn't fully appreciate that while I was in undergrad. I don't think it was until I was in grad school when, because in undergrad, like I had scholarships and my parents helped me pay for undergrad, but grad school was all on me. And it wasn't until I had the full burden of it with loans and whatever that I started to fully appreciate, oh, this is the value of the things I'm learning, and to really like really truly like sop up like what's being presented to you in on campus. I think if I had understood that a little better in undergrad, I might still remember what I learned.
Thank you so much, everyone. And so now we'll move on to the second question.
Our second question is, what is one thing people misunderstand about your field or industry?
Great question. Well, first start off, similar to Iris, I was also first in my family to go to college. Came from a first-gen low-income background. And my degree, my bachelor's degree in American Studies, my brothers often used to be like, well, what kind of job are you going to get with an American Studies degree? And I hated it because I hadn't thought that far ahead when I was in that moment. And I didn't even know about the field of student affairs until my supervisor, my last semester, second to last semester, when I was like venting to him about being asked, what am I going to do with American Studies? He was like, oh, well, have you thought about student affairs? And I didn't realize that I worked in orientation in undergrad, and I didn't realize that that was a part of student affairs. And so I started looking into master's programs and seeing like all of the different types of departments on campus that fall under student affairs. And I really enjoyed helping people. That's part of why I got into the field, especially those who are underrepresented. I wanted to be able to pay that forward. And so when I ventured off into the field of higher ed, my family still doesn't know what I do. My dad probably tells people that I'm a counselor on campus or an advisor. That's like the basis of what even like I would say my brothers know. And I had one of my nephews was asking me about what I do. And I was like, I sent him the website where I have my little bio at, and I was just like, oh, I'm an associate. He was just like, oh my gosh, like, he was like, that title sounds like really big. I was like, yeah, I work with students and help with retention, so helping them through the challenging times that they experience in undergrad, and whether that be academics, personal, social, and help try to get them through to graduation. And so I have to kind of really explain it a little bit, that it's more than, I'm not a counselor. There's counselors on campus with those degrees, and I don't have those degrees. And I do a little bit of academic advising, but that's not all of the stuff that I do.
So for at least the design side of things, there's always that assumption that I'm going to be a starving artist. Which, not gonna lie, it is just a little bit, but then also, too, with teaching, that I'm gonna be overworked. There's lots of grading. There's lots of, like, dealing with parents and everything like that, because usually you hear about things about, like, like K through 12 education. So, like, in a family where it was mostly, like, tech or the health industry, doing something that was completely different was just seen as like, oh, you just not want to be able to thrive and survive. And I feel like in any field that you are in, some of the jobs that you might go into, you might not even use your degree, but more often than not, there are skills that are transferable to so many different things. Like, so I do user experience, user interface work. And that's all about understanding who the audience is. It's all about understanding, okay, how do we build experiences, conversations, communications to help connect with the audience? And so that can be applied to many different things. And I have friends who are now like wedding planners and also like nurses and teacher for me. But as far as just design in general too, especially in this world of AI, I won't go too much into AI because I know that's one of the questions, but it's also this idea that as a designer, I'm only in charge of making things pretty, but I find that to actually have good effective design, there needs to be this understanding of the content. How do we actually create something that really connects with our users, our the people that we're trying to reach out with this piece of communication, with this product. So I'm just of the mind that design, it isn't just about the the look around it, but it needs to be at the core of things.
I think I'm next. And I think if I ask everyone in the room what they imagine when they imagine the life of a writer, it's like this, like, unless you've worked as a writer, it sounds like this magical experience of either you're, an alcoholic that, like drinks all day and then writes these amazing verses, or you're just waiting for the muse to strike you and then you finally write these lines, or you're suffering from writer's block. It's very dramatic. I mean, Hollywood loves the writer, um, probably because there's writers, like, there's writers making those films. But the reality of being a writer is it's really, really not that exciting and sexy. It's amazing if you want to be a writer. But if you, I mean, I spend probably months in the archives, digging out, trying to find someone's life. Or I go travel to places like Eastern Colorado, and go lay in the dirt so I can smell it and write about it. It's a weird life. And I'm on the road a lot when I'm not teaching. But I think people think that it's this glamorous life that instead of the reality of when you're writing a book, you're living out of your car a little bit, like eating power bars and living off Diet Coke because you're trying to, like, go between archives and writing a story. So, and then like when you're on the road on book tour, it's not like you're staying in, the Ritz. So it's an interesting thing. But it's, it's just like any other profession where I have to sit down every day and put in the work. I don't get to wait for inspiration. I have book contracts and I have deadlines to make. And so I have to sit down and plan out my week and when I'm going to write what. And then also I'm a teacher, an instructor at the college, or at several colleges actually. So I have to plan that out on top of it. So it's a really intensive job. But if you love being a writer, it's the best possible job that you can have.
Um, there's this misconception that voice acting is easy. Like, I get any variety of questions that kind of lead me to that like conclusion that people have. Like, people will ask me, "Oh, well, how do you choose what roles you play?" And I'm like, "I don't choose roles, man. Like, they choose me. I have to audition for almost everything." Sometimes I get asked to audition for things, and on the very rare occasion, a director that I've worked with before is like, "Hey, I've got a role. I think you would be perfect for it. Will you take it?" And I'll be like, "Yes, 100%. I would never say no." But most of what I do is auditioning and staying on top of like my craft and waiting for the next job to come in. There's also this conception or misconception that like we just lead this easy life, like, oh, you just come in, you do your 30 minutes or 2 hours of a job, and then you can go home. But I'm like, yes, but if you're, say, the person working the front desk there, you have like a 9 to 5 job. Like, you have a set number of hours that you work. I have to figure out how to book work for any number of minutes between 30 minutes to 4 hours. And so it's on me to like make up that schedule for myself, because it's totally freelance, and like that life is not for everyone. And so I think there's just this misconception that it comes so easily, and it's like this glamorous thing, and it's like, it's not. I spend a lot of time in my pajamas in a small little room in front of a microphone, hoping that this like 1 minute reel that I'm recording is going to be the thing that books me for another, I don't know, maybe a couple $1,000s worth of sessions by the end of a season. You know, like it's harder than people seem to understand.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you everyone for your answers. It was really insightful. Yeah, so the third question is actually from the audience. So if you see it say audience question, and they're questions that we ended up pulling from the RC form. So yeah, this question was, how can I market myself to employers in a demanding job market, especially as a humanities major? Anyone else? We'll have Chris answer first.
All right, I'll go first. For this one, I would say, like for me, looking back at like my major, I wasn't in a STEM field. Like I would say, I think of like engineering where you're learning like what you're doing, or like even design, you're learning what you're going to be doing in a future job. You know, it's a lot of reading, a lot of writing. But for me, I had a work experience that I had from like high school through my community college, and so I leveraged that experience and what I was involved in to market myself for roles that I was applying for. And so that's one thing that I think that may not always be shared is like your co-curricular experience in college. It gives you a lot of skills as well that you're able to either like marry with your degree or complement it in some sort of way, or it may be something that's completely unrelated. Like again, I didn't know about student affairs or higher ed, and my undergrad job introduced me, led me to the field. But I would definitely say you can work with the Career Center on campus to learn about how you can talk about all of the things that you're involved in, whether it be your clubs as well, a volunteer experience. I would leverage all of that in addition to your degree.
So I think something that I was realizing just as I was getting older is that the tasks that you do and the skills that you use to perform that task isn't the only lesson that you learn in that situation. While I might be preparing for like a trade show, I could then learn about, timing when it comes to making sure that my booth gets sent out on time, or managing a whole bunch of different deadlines, or an argument I had with somebody on the team because they didn't give me enough content in time to go print something, and then also, how do I solve all those problems? And I think, it got to a point that I was like thinking, okay, how do I organize all of these things? And how do I maybe even, just sort of like think about these processes? How do I tie in like stories? Because a lot of times they ask, during interviews, they ask questions about like, can you explain each, situation where you did X, Y, Z? And so, something that works for me, like, yes, I am in an artistic discipline, but for better or for worse, the STEM side of my family still kind of won out, and I sort of look at a lot of things through, what kind of framework can I organize it in. And I was just looking at my notes over here. So when I think about this, I sort of come up with a table and sort of list like, things like job requirements, what the project was that I created for something, anecdotes, stories, hard skills, soft skills, transferable skills, my perspective, and the lessons learned. And then I just keep coming up with sort of like rows and rows of this. And for me, that's how I sort of like prepare my story that I'm going to be telling. And then depending too on the job, taking a look at what each of those job requirements are, and then seeing how I can match my stories to those job requirements. So for me, it is just sort of like a lot of like strategy. How do I build a story of, I don't want to necessarily say like, I'm sorry, I'm not a right fit, because we don't necessarily want to prime our the interview panel with this idea that, we're apologizing for being who we are, but rather I am here who I am, and these skills, I don't want to say is anything like, it's not necessarily the standard path that somebody would be following, but rather here how my skills then bring in a unique perspective to help solve these problems. So it is about that story and that frame that you tell things through.
Thank you.
I would say if you're a humanities major, then you've taken classes in research. So you should research this company that you're going to be applying to and show your passion and desire to work at this place because you've done the work. I mean, the secret to any, like, I work as a journalist as well. And when you are doing an interview, the secret to getting buy-in with the person you're talking with is to pull up some fact about their life from like when they were like in high school or something, like something way back. And they're like, oh my gosh, how did you know that about me? Right? It means that you've done your homework. And that's the thing, as a humanities major, you have this ability, A, to do research, and B, to write, so it's something that you're bringing to the table. I used to teach writing to engineers for years. And I remember every time I'd start that class, everyone would be like, I don't know why I need to learn how to write because I'm an engineer. And I said, well, how do you think you're going to become the lead engineer? You have to be able to get what's inside of your head onto the page. And you only do that through writing. So if you want to be able to get a job as an engineer, you need to show your brilliance inside here onto the page. And I think that's the edge that humanities majors have, is they not only have these other abilities, they have the ability to write and to do research.
For actors, when we're auditioning for a role, say there's a role, it's a woman, and you'll like the casting director will probably see anywhere from 50 to a couple hundred submissions for this one female character, right? So you're gonna have 50 to 200, say, women doing the exact same script, probably making a lot of the exact same choices, and it's gonna start sounding real similar all across the board, right? So then how do they pick one person to like take this role? And it is that actor who sets themselves apart by showing their individuality. It is the things that make you uniquely you that will make your audition stand out versus somebody else's. And hopefully they'll like what you put in there. And the things that make you uniquely you might book you that role. Or it might not book you that role, but it might book you a role down the line. So as long as you always remember to put a little bit of you into every character that you do, then you're already like halfway there.
Okay, thank you everyone for answering. Let's move on to our next question, which is what are your thoughts on taking a gap year in your education?
I didn't take one, but I kind of wish I had. I kind of wish I had taken, if not a gap year, I wish I had taken the opportunity to like travel more, like be with myself out in the world a little bit. I don't know. I feel like when you go like K through 12 and then right into undergrad and then right into grad school, at least that was my trajectory. Like I never stopped really, and I didn't travel a lot until I was like out of that mode. But I kind of wish I had, as a student, gone on a trip, gone backpacking one summer. That would have been cool. I think those experiences only serve to enrich you, serve to teach you about how the world works and how you fit into the world. So the sooner you can do it, the better.
I will shift. Sorry. Um, I encourage it. I took 2 years off after undergrad. I felt like I was burnt out. My undergrad, I felt like really like challenged me a lot, and I had to write a thesis for my degree, and that was very stressful. And I needed to identify what schools I wanted to apply to grad school. But first, I was trying to get an entry level job to make sure that I wanted to go into higher ed. Because I was like, that's going to be 2 more years of school and have to go through the application process. And so I was trying to find work that was related to just have that informed decision for me. And it also allowed me to live a little bit, connected back with family and friends in the Bay Area. And I got to gain experience that helped me in my grad program. I got to work at a youth enrichment program. I worked in HR for a little bit and also did some substitute teaching. But those 2 gap years were preparing, studying for the GRE, which I wish I never had to take because it wasn't necessarily relevant for my grad program. I didn't have the means to like, I know some people do get to go and do trips and stuff like that free. For me, it was more preparation years for grad school and preparing to apply and write those statements of purpose and get those letters of recommendation. And so for me, it was definitely like making sure that I was 100% sure about the decision to go to grad school and gaining that experience along the way that helped me in the program.
So for me, just the family and expectations and everything like that. If I had suggested if I was to take a gap year, I think it would have been looked on very negatively. But now, just as I'm older, where I'm at as well, and if I were actually, I keep telling this to my youngest cousin. She's a freshman right now, and I'm telling her, the lessons again that we learn. It isn't just in the classroom, and get out there, go ahead and take that break and use that time to sort of understand oneself. Because where I'm at right now, I think the thing that will help you succeed out in the world, I think, yes, the skills are helpful, but I think knowledge of oneself, understanding where your strengths lie, and then how can you essentially apply those strengths elsewhere. Where can that go? And I guess in some ways, I guess I took my gap year later in life. I think it was just 2 years ago. I was finally not teaching during the summer, and I just realized, I just have so much time, and what can I do with this time? And just taking a look at there are opportunities to go learn a new craft, and then what lessons can I learn from that craft, or maybe even to binge watch series. Which I'm not going to say that I used my sort of gap time completely. Effectively, but I think through any experience that we choose, we are learning lessons. And so, with my cousin, I tell her that, just get out there, learn different things. And I do see that benefit of a gap year. If I could tell my younger self and communicate to my parents, it's this is what this year is supposed to be. It is about learning. It's about understanding myself, and like Chris was saying, also preparing oneself to go figure out how do we want to then apply our perspective out in the world. How do we want to, essentially do good in the world? So I would say, yes, I wish I understood it more when I was younger, but I think it's a good time.
Thank you.
Here we go. Oh, sorry.
You're good now.
Okay. I would agree with everyone's saying. Because of the fact that I was a first generation college student, I just went straight through from undergrad to grad school because I thought that's what you do, just keep going. And so I was very young in grad school getting my MFA in poetry in New York City, and I was just overwhelmed. But and then after that, I took a break from the writing world and got a job as a computer programmer at Cisco Systems, and did that for a while to, make ends meet. And it made me realize, it was kind of my break, my gap years, to realize oh, I do not want to not be a writer. And so that's when I applied for my PhD program and went back. And when I went back to my PhD program, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. It was very clear to me. I had not been able to live a life as a writer for several years because I needed to pay off student loans, and I was never again. And I think a gap year, I like how you brought up the idea of binge watching a show or something. I think it's a time of self-reflection, and if that means that you need to watch, what is it called, Bridgerton? Just, I think the next episodes are dropping tomorrow, so it's on my mind. But that idea of if you need to reread Wuthering Heights, 4 times, or whatever it is that's gonna get you closer to yourself, is what you should do during that time. And it sounds indulgent in our culture, which is always move forward, make money, and of course you have to make money and pay rent and eat, but at the same time, there's always space in your day where you can also just maybe look at the sky and not look at a device and see what that feels like in your brain.
Okay, so we'll move on to our fifth question, which is, what's your opinion on AI and how should we prepare for it? We'll probably have like one or two panelists speak this in the interest of time.
I'm sorry. I have a lot of things to say about AI, and especially too as a designer. I graduated in 2008 during, one of those once in a lifetime recessions, and I don't know how many we've had so far. So in that case, at that time, we had to pivot a lot because a lot of the print design jobs, and I was trained as a print designer. Those print jobs were going away because of the web, because of these devices over here. And just the whole nature of being a designer was changing. And so I'm not going to say that it's exactly the same as it is right now, but there's this scene from the Johnny Depp version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory where the dad is in charge of, his first job was to put the caps on toothpaste, but then he got fired because then they brought in a machine to go do that job. At the end of the movie, he got his job back where his job then was to go fix the machine that was putting on the caps on these toothpastes. And so I think it is a little bit of evolution of the field. And I think Iris had mentioned too, like just being able to go research. And I think something that sort of like helped me sort of like navigate things too is also just sort of taking a look at some of the trends that are happening, taking a look at those job postings, what are the terms that are being used, and just being able to go try to map everything. And I think also something that I tell a lot to my students is think about how you can go apply your own unique perspective, and how do you also think about what are your differentiators as a designer. So we usually do an exercise like, how many people do Illustrator? How many do people know how to do use the basic programs? And everyone would raise their hands. But then we started asking questions like, how many of you are small business owners? And we have a few people. How many of you played sports? How many of you have a double major? And so, the answer isn't necessarily to try to do everything, but what are some unique things that you do well? And so for me, I doubled in design and English. So the fact that I was both, doing writing, doing editing, as well as my design, I was then able to, in many ways, affect what design I had based on what words I had, because I was saying if I have too many words on the page, I can just edit it and change it. So really, again, it goes back to the understanding of oneself. I'm not really even talking about AI over here, but it's like really trying to go, think about what unique things that you can bring out into the world. And, there's a lot of things that humans can do that just AI can't. It's that perspective. It's that agility to be able to go bounce back and forth between our different brains and different minds and skills. So that's what I would recommend.
Goes to Iris. He looks like she really wants to respond.
I have strong feelings about AI as a writer. Also somebody who worked in the tech industry. So the idea that AI is being built there's a wonderful book out right now called The Empire of AI, which is about a really close study of the creation of AI. It's made to make money. It's not there as a tool to help us. And I think we need to keep that in our sights when we're saying, oh, it's this magical tool. I think we felt this way. We feel this way in every, I study history, and every time there's a new invention, it's the idea of, oh, it'll make everything else go away. Like the toothpaste example, putting the toothpaste on, the idea of automation. You still need the human touch. And so if, someone puts something in in AI and turns it in as a paper, it's really obvious that that none of their personality is on the page, and none of their personal anecdotes, and none of their you're flattening your text to be the same as everyone else. And the other thing is, when AI is searching the internet, like the things I write about, I write about women that have been forgotten or misremembered, or uh, and they're not on the internet. So when if you like find out my biography in like Chat GPT, it's not going to tell you. I mean, it's starting to tell you more, but it at first it wouldn't tell you anything about my books, and none of my books were there, so you couldn't find that information. So it's like if we want to just sit there and tell the same stories over and over again and not see beyond the archival wall, which is like where all the stories, like, talk about, if you want to hear just stories of old white men over and over again, then let's use AI. So sorry, I feel very passionately about this because I think it's just something that's there's so many wonderful things that could be done with it, but right now it's not being used in that way, and I think we have to really fight against it if we want to keep the humanity of what we're doing in our professions.
Thank you, Iris. Okay. But in the interest of time, so yeah, we'll keep it to 2 speakers for that. But we'll be moving on now to like more individual personalized questions.
Okay. So this is a question for both Kat and Iris. I'll have Kat go first. Like, how does a senior thesis / project affect opportunities?
Question from like.
Oh yeah, this is from the audience.
Senior thesis.
Like project, like a big.
Okay, so this was just my experience, at least for creating my capstone project in grad school. It was essentially this moment of reflection and the culmination of all of my studies that I did in grad school, but also not just that, but all of the years that I worked in the industry, but also my undergrad and all of those experiences, all those conversations. And for me, to be able to essentially take all of these versions of myself and put them into this one new person that I'm putting out into the world, that's what that final thesis was for me. It's how do I express myself in a more holistic perspective as opposed to Kat the designer or Kat the editor or Kat the I don't know, mover of boxes or something like that. It was me just be able to essentially mix all of these parts of myself and then just better understand myself and better understand what I wanted to go put out into the world.
Thank you.
And I can speak to, I work with students who are writing their senior thesis or their honors thesis. And typically I work with creative writers in the English department, and they use that. I mean, it becomes like what you move from to create your grad school app. So, I mean, I think that's a really important step in any field that you're writing any sort of capstone, undergrad capstone project. It's going to be how you define, you really want to put the focus in it of like exploring, in creative writing, you're going to explore like what genre you really want to write in and what does that look like. But in other fields, like if you want to go into English literature or something like that, then you would explore what time periods do I want to look at, or it's a way to kind of to figure out the bridge from undergrad to graduate school.
Thank you.
Hi, these questions are for both Kat and Anne. Both of you guys completed higher education, both with a STEM and humanities degree. How did both experiences in totally different fields affect your career? And we can start with Kat first.
So I should have read more about the degree that I was applying for, but I didn't realize that it was actually an MS when I was in there. In some ways, I actually didn't really see that it was an MS. I mean, maybe looking back at it, it was talking about data analytics, so that does seem like a very STEM side of things. But at the heart of things, I am an artist. I am a designer. I am somebody who communicates visually. And I guess while I learned things about data analysis, while I learned things about creating like databases, I would always put it into the context of who I am and who I wanted to become, which was somebody who could essentially blend just all kinds of knowledge. And I think just knowledge in general, it isn't necessarily a STEM thing or necessarily like a humanities thing. I think ultimately it's information. And for me, the tools that I was learning, let's see, what was the question there? I don't know if I answered all of that. Yeah, and I think for me, like grad school, like, you know, and just sort of thinking about the, I guess, not really like partisan view of education, that it's not necessarily like a STEM knowledge or a humanities knowledge, but just knowledge, just sort of made me then think about, you know, how can we just collect everything and with our many minds essentially try to solve problems. Like, it also made me start thinking about like how do I sort of like then communicate with teams with these different perspectives, because wouldn't it be a wonderful thing with different people with their different skills, no matter what it is, STEM, humanities and everything, to be all coming together to go solve the same problem and bring in their unique different perspectives on it to go try to solve that. So I guess I don't know if that really answered the question, but yeah. Thank you.
So after I graduated with my master's in fine arts, I was in LA trying to like start like living as an actor, but you know, like an actor's life is tough in general, and I needed to start paying student loans, and so I actually like found a second career, or I guess it was technically my first career, using my STEM degree as a forensic scientist. So I was a forensic scientist for like 7 or 8 years here in Los Angeles, while I was also like acting in plays and starting to do voiceover and doing improv and sketch comedy and all kinds of different things out here. But 9 to 5, I was a forensic scientist. Um, and then at some point, I kind of like made the jump over and focused fully on my artistic career, because for as much as I found a career as a forensic scientist to be very interesting and very like thought provoking, I also um didn't have my heart in it, you know, and as good at analytics as I can be, I find that I am more of an empathetic person. I respond emotionally to everything, and I just could not be an artist. And so I made the transition over to be uh, an actor. And I was also lucky that in making that transition, it didn't take long for me to be able to make art my primary profession. I realize that's not the case for everybody. But I think that the job that I had before, while it's not 100% compatible with what I do now, I still gained a lot of experience, and I met a lot of different types of people, and I had a lot of different types of experiences that have only served to enrich the tool set that I have as an actor now.
Thank you for both of your responses. I really like what you said about like it's knowledge, and that it's just like it's knowledge that you're accumulating and learning. Yeah. The next question will be for Iris. So, how do you decide what you end up writing on, and how do you choose your medium, especially since it's like you have this background in writing essays, biographies, and poems? Yeah, what's the process?
That's a great question. So I started out as a poet and I identify as a poet. But when I was writing my uh, fourth book of poems, I was writing about Jack London's wife, Charmian Kittredge London. I was at the Huntington Library doing research, and I discovered that his wife, Charmian, actually helped him write some of his most famous works, and like books that I totally loved as a child because they had, strong female protagonists. And I was like, oh my God, if I write a poetry book, like maybe 1,000 people will read it. But if I write a biography, I can get a wider audience. And so that's when I switched to prose, because I thought I could tell these stories of recovery to a wider audience. The way that I find a subject is I find a story that I can't get out from underneath my skin. So for right now, like I can't stop thinking about, why, strong-bodied women or women athletes are constantly being dismissed. And we see that even, in the most recent Olympics. And so because of that, I'm writing this cultural commentary on strength. So it's just the idea of like a project comes to me because it's something that I'm passionate about and I can't stop thinking about. And then I just pursue it like crazy. So that's how I find my subjects. And the genre really, like I usually work between genres. So when I was writing like The Wind, which is the story of Sonora Babb, who wrote this amazing book about the Dust Bowl called Whose Names Are Unknown, that didn't get published because John Steinbeck um, appropriated her work. So The Grapes of Wrath became this famous novel, and hers didn't get published until 2004. So when I was writing this, I was like, I was amazed at her, but I felt really weird taking on Steinbeck. John Steinbeck is like famous writer, and I read him in high school. And my family had came over in the Dust Bowl, and my grandmother hated The Grapes of Wrath, and I didn't know why until I read it again. And for me, as a way to kind of reclaim it, I had to do an erasure project. I wish I had it with me, but I erased The Grapes of Wrath. So I was reading it and I got so angry that I used like my Sharpie like pens and like wrote over it and circled letters and wrote my own poetry on top of it about my grandmother, about Sonora Babb, and about our misconception of the West that was brought to us by The Grapes of Wrath, that there was just like that California was made up of just white people working in the fields, and that was absolutely false. So it was for that project, the genre picks the project, basically is what happens. And there's no shortage of stories that fall into my lap every day. It's just the one that gets under my skin that I can't stop thinking about. That's how I choose my next book.
Iris. Move on to our
This question is for Anne. How has your experience as a Filipino American influenced your career path?
Oh, yes. So I am also first generation. Uh, both my parents immigrated from the Philippines, and then both my brother and I were born here. And, my parents didn't expect me to choose art. Uh, Growing up, I was expected to do well in school. I got straight A's. I was salutatorian of my high school class. I graduated with a biomedical engineering degree with honors. And my parent, it was understood that I was gonna go to med school. I was gonna become a doctor. Like, that was the expected path for me. But the whole time, like, I couldn't stop my love for the stage. I couldn't stop hanging out at the theater. I was doing plays. I was working in the costume shop. I was doing everything I could to, be around performers. And so when it came time for me to audition for and get into grad school for acting, I did it. And then I had to like break it to my parents that I was gonna move to California to pursue acting, and they were not happy. They were so mad at me. But I kept assuring them. I was like, I am gonna graduate with this degree. I will always have this degree. It is something I can fall back on. I can always go back to med school. I'm gonna be fine. And I think it was literally just sheer grit that propelled me to actually move to California and do this. Um, I kind of I just did it. I'm not gonna lie, I just did it. Uh, and I kept just reassuring them that I was doing okay. And part of the reason why I got that job as a forensic scientist after grad school was to continue to reassure them that I'm gonna be okay. I will be able to find means of work, and I can I can feed myself. I can pay my rent. That was really important to me to be able to convey to them. Uh, so that by the time I eventually like took that gamble and left my other job to focus just on acting, they weren't going to be freaked out. It probably also helped that I was married by that time because, my parents thought, oh, she's taken care of and double standard and whatnot. That's fine. I love that for me. But I will say this. My parents never stopped believing in me and they love me. And when they did finally understand what I do and that I have become successful at it, they were like 100% on board. Like they've been disappointed, but we've never like broken bonds over that. And I feel very lucky and loved that that was the case for me. Uh, but I think to answer the actual question, I think it's something that I am very grateful to be a Filipino American voice actor in this space. I get to meet a lot of fans these days at conventions, and you know, every once in a while, I actually I see more and more like Filipinos come to my table and they tell me how cool it is that they get to hear the voice of someone just like them in their animes or their video games or whatnot. And it's always it always like just really touches my heart that I get to do that for them when, I had other people do that for me when I was growing up. Like Lea Salonga is my hero. And so like if I ever get to meet Lea Salonga in person, like I will do the exact same thing that all these kids do to me. And I think that's a really special thing. And I don't take that lightly. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. With that, we will move into our 5-minute break. So if you have any questions that you want to ask the panelists, feel free to fill out like this quick Google form, and over break we'll just like go through the questions. Feel free to also get snacks. We have food up here, and refreshments. So yeah. Oh, you guys, you guys, you guys. Reading a little bit. Like if there's any overlap, like you I'm just like you were. Okay. Sorry, it was I got it. I mean, you could, you could. I still get it. I don't know. Good job. It's like yeah, I Board. I've been here. Yes. Yes. Like pretty solid. Like that was very like a dress to walk in.
Like,
What?
that's my like,
So I did it. Right. Live a period.
you're right. Yeah, like, yeah. That's
So I'm very and I feel like that. Oh no, I don't want. We're like that one is. I literally like I then got
let me.
I have a lot. Maybe either like. Oh wait, I'm about to make some GPS Sunday, but sometimes if I have like a thing. Okay, it was over there. Yeah. Okay, sure. But next maybe this is we have London. I think. But I'll go tell say the best. You need actually do you see them for like Easter? Because like all of your kind of my location is just for week this one. Okay, I'll just okay. Let me know. Also, which way? It's like, yeah, it's not there. Oh, yeah. Like, this is better. Like, love it.
Yeah, right.
Wait. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like, feel like it's like
Thankful for it, thankful for it.
Yeah. Sorry. Hello again. Okay. So with that, we're gonna start with our open Q&A. There we go. Okay. Please, would you like to ask your question? We'll ask you the mic.
Hi, my name is Reese. Sorry, I need to pull up the question on my phone. Hi, my name is Reese. I consider myself a voice actor, and I'd like to figure out how to go farther in my career. So a lot of my questions are for On. I have a lot of questions for you guys too, but I didn't finish putting them in, so I'll ask. Number one, how do you go about networking to eventually start voice acting in video games and anime?
Okay, so it's so it's like this. The general trajectory is you're gonna take some classes and you're gonna cut a demo reel, and then you're gonna shop that demo reel out to agents. In the meantime, you can also be once you have a reel, you can, do cold calls to studios that, work on these types of things. It's easier when you have an agent, frankly. Like I was acting for 6, 7 years, 7 years. I was voice acting specifically for like 7 years before I got representation with a bigger agency that could get me like that quality of auditions that you're talking about. Where are you in your career right now, if I may ask?
Sorry, okay. But I've got a reel. I don't know how to find an agent. Yeah.
A website called Voiceover Resource Guide, and it's literally just like a directory, and it's got a directory of like studios that teach classes, studios that cut reels, agencies. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, it's got like agencies that that you might be able to seek representation from. You can also look up, if you have IMDb Pro, you can look up actors that you like, and then you can see who their agents are. Um, that's another way of going about it. IMDb Pro comes with a cost. Yeah, specifically for getting agents. That's that's my tip there. Agents are hard to get into. I had to be walked in to my agency before last. I had to be walked in through an industry referral because I worked on a video game and someone at the studio really liked me there, and they literally just walked me into their friend's office, and their friend was an agent. But cold emails are also your friend. It sometimes works. In the meantime, I would work on building your resume, audition for like indie projects. There's a Discord called Voice Acting Club. That's a great place for voice. Great. Start there. Be auditioning for things. Look on Twitter. I mean, have a discerning eye. A lot of stuff on Twitter is suspicious or not great, but try it out. You have to start building your resume in order for agents to even want to really take a look at you. It is the rare case where an agent will just, you know, look at or listen to a reel of someone that they have no idea who they are. Do you know what I mean? And has very little on their resume. So start doing things. And even if it's not voiceover specific, are you in theater?
Do you film? Yeah, I did. I started voiceover before that.
It's fine. Keep acting, keep doing theater. That's stuff to put on your resume. It shows that you have experience performing. It shows that you have the craft. You know what I mean? Keep doing things. Add to your tool belt. Take improv. Improv is such a huge tool for us, uh, especially with commercial work. Most of what you're going to do beginning out is going to be commercial auditions, and they're always asking for people who have comedy training, who can improv, because they're lazy and they want you to write their scripts for them.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
Hi, my question also and because I'm also an actor. I'm a cinema and theater major and gender studies. but I want to pursue professionally acting, and I'm graduating this quarter. So I also had a similar question about how to start out with voice acting, which you answered. But I wanted to ask you specifically. I think because I'm like trans or gender non-conforming, a lot of casting calls are very specific and very binary. And I wanted to ask you if you have any tips on getting voice acting roles as a gender non-conforming person. And also, I like for networking, I had a similar question. Is like when you're trying to find auditions, how do you? I wanted to ask you actually. Like one of my strategies was to go to LA, like you did, and then start looking for work there. But my family has a similar thing. Like there's no guarantee gonna get a job there. So is it better to shift to a location where you work according to the industry you want to work in, or is it better to have a lot of acting experience and then move to a place once you're 100% sure you can work there?
Okay. Yes. Wait. The first question was about finding roles kind of more catered to you. Here's the deal. There are just generally less roles for non-binary or non-gender conforming characters. They are fewer and further between. That's not to say that there aren't non-binary and non-gender conforming voice actor performers, and I know many of them, and you probably follow a lot of them, and you probably are aware of them. So it's kind of about you, and that might be this. I'm maybe not the best person to answer this question, but I would say a lot of what we do has to do with serving, especially in anime and localization work. I will couch that, is about serving a voice print. And so getting to know your voice and getting to know what qualities your voice has and what your voice is capable of doing, then you can kind of cater that to which characters you feel comfortable auditioning for. You know what I mean? Um, for example, there's a voice actress by the name of Kayla McKee, who is a dear friend of mine. She is transgender. She voices characters both on the male and female spectrum, but that's because she has really trained her voice to be able to do to be able to hit both spectrums of characters. She has a large range, she has a great talent, and she's capable of doing that. And that's something that takes both talent but also training, and that's practice. And things can be achieved. You can learn how to extend the range of your voice. You can really learn that skill, but it takes time and it takes training. Um, excuse me. Uh, okay, remind me of the second part of your question.
I wanted to ask about how important is it to be in the location,
Yes, for the locations of the industry.
or is it better to do have more experience and then move to like LA, for example?
It's it's whatever makes you feel more comfortable is my answer. I uh I moved to LA specifically because I was going to go to school like literally just 30 miles up the road from Los Angeles. And then after I graduated, I just stayed in LA because it was there. Um that's not to say that you can't start building a resume here or where you live. Uh or in a local market and then eventually like make the move out. It is harder, I would say, to start a voiceover career specifically outside of the major hubs of LA, New York, and to some extent Dallas. But it's not impossible, and I know voice actors who do create like they have full-time careers doing voiceover from all over the country, but that is going to require you to do a lot of your own work as your own agent, as your own manager, as your own PR person. You're going to do a lot of cold calls. You're going to be interfacing directly with clients. It's going to be just a lot of more work on your part rather than uh, for someone who lives in one of the major hubs. That is one thing I will say. It is easier to find the work in a major hub because a lot of these major hubs want you to record in person, but it's not a 100% requirement. So just be aware of that.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
I have another question. Yes. Yeah. So my question is for Professor Dunkle. I'm also a writer, so and I'm interested in all of the different forms of writing that you do, poetry, essays, biographies. I wanted to ask you, how do you start off as a poet, essayist, as a writer in general? Other than like the writing aspect, how do you start putting your work out in terms of publishing or getting a platform for your writing? I wanted to ask you because you mentioned that you didn't know that it was possible to have a career in writing, and I actually think similarly till now because I feel like with all the other forms of media, writing has become a little bit less viable as a career, at least to me, in my like the way I'm seeing it. But I mean, clearly it's very possible. So I wanted to ask you how you can start to put your writing out and get a platform for it.
That's a great question. Yeah, and I love that full circle, the idea that you didn't really like. I think it's kind of told. We're kind of like sold this story that writing isn't. There's no writing careers out there yet. There's writers out there writing. So, how you start is you start publishing in smaller venues. Like if you wanted to start publishing your writing on campus to start with. I don't know if you know about the different writing journals we have on campus. That would be a good place to start. And then more locally, like in California, and then, go to like a national platform. Like it's just like you move like from smaller circles to bigger circles and you build from one to the other. A lot of like, just like Anne was saying, the idea is you spend a lot of your time doing something called pitching, where you're like setting up, you're trying to find stories. If you're writing essays, say for a publication, so if say I'm pitching something to, Vanity Fair or something like that, I have to find out what is their market, and then what am I going to pitch to that? That is not creative writing, that is journalistic writing, but that's part of how I pay the bills as well, because you get paid more money for that, unless you get lucky and you hit a book that makes it really big. But you have to be able to like hustle. That's part of being a writer, is you have to like believe in yourself no matter what, because you're going to get a lot of rejection, and it's just normal. Like I think a lot of writers famously like paper their walls with their rejection slips, and you have to be ready for that. You have to believe in what you're doing and believe in yourself, and then know that you can keep going. So that's why it's good to start with like smaller venues and then work your way up, and kind of like what you said, build your platform, right? And then start, once you have those publications, start sharing them with your social media, and building, like, then you would go on to like writing, creating a website for yourself. But always go through the traditional publishing platforms, because if you self-publish, it's not going to count towards building your career, because it essentially is, it doesn't go through that process of being selected and being edited and fact-checked and all those things, which makes it more valuable in the literary world. Doesn't mean that it's always better. It just means that it is more valuable that way. And I can tell you, as a writer, it's really helpful to have that whole team helping you. When you write biography, you need people who are going to do fact checking and just have your back for things like that. It's really great. So did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hello. This question is for Yatco. What advice would you give to someone who is interested in getting into the voice acting career but doesn't have that much experience voice acting?
An experience. Do you have any acting experience? Because that's the first place I'd go. Take an acting class. Go visit the theater on campus and start getting to know people at the theater. Take an acting class. There's probably a acting for non-majors course if you're not a theater major.
Yeah, I haven't really not. I haven't been. I'm not an acting major. It's actually cognitive science. Just something actually always been a fan of voice acting. And I've always wondered if I could get into it if I practiced.
Of voice acting is acting. So anything you can do to learn about the craft of acting is going to help you become a voice actor. And I would start, since you're in school right now, go to the theater. Go to the theater, watch shows, make friends, and take a class. See if you enjoy acting before you even get in front of the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Maybe add to that actually. Not a voice actor or anything like that, but I am an introvert, and for life's many ironies, I now do a job where I'm speaking in front of, and just to be able to get over that hurdle of just over people, it was in some ways like I would force myself and volunteer for places where I would have to go talk to people. And I think honestly, just being able to talk, and in some ways too, when I was presenting my work during critiques in class, I would, in some cases, like I would put on my heels. I would put on in some cases like a costume or something like that, and pretend I was this like badass we're all badass designer who was really, really good at everything. And so I essentially like, okay, this is like who I'm going to be today. And what would somebody like that speak like? How would they act? How would they go around with people? And so for me, again, just as an introvert, they say practice makes perfect, maybe for some people, but for me, I think like sometimes it's just practice makes comfortable. I'm still an introvert. Like there are some days when we do studio, it's because I have a hard time speaking in front of everybody. So there's a secret over there. So then like knowing that like sometimes I get overwhelmed with stuff. A lot of it is like the preparation. Maybe it's like writing notes for myself. It's maybe being able to go take some breaks. It's maybe in some cases, like for interviews too, like if I'm feeling overwhelmed with those interviews, sometimes I just ask a question. And like also during those trade shows, I would ask people questions. Sort of my role was I'm a curious person. And so I would let the other person I'm speaking to lead the conversation, and then I would just practice by responding to them. So that was just like for me to sort of like deal with like me being an introvert, just being able to talk to different people and like pick up on what are things that they're doing, how are they like being able to be charismatic or something like that. So it was just in many ways like studying the people around me and then almost like filing it away. It's like, how can I also be like them? How can I maybe pretend to be them? Maybe, and this is probably bad for like my shopping addiction. It's like, let's go ahead and like put on like this like hat or something that makes me like a stylish like person who can communicate with people. Or let's put on this jacket, which means like I'm a quirky artist or something like that. And we have such a little time in this world and so many different opportunities to be different people that we want. So to be able to experiment in some cases, to be able to try on like these different hats. It's not really like answering how to get into voice acting, but that's at least like what I did, at least to be able to go communicate and essentially like be able to put myself out there. So that's how I do it. I hope that gives you some some advice. If it doesn't take you anywhere, I'm sorry in advance, but just like it is that grind, like what Anna said.
And to add on what she said, I took an acting and directing for the camera course in undergrad. I was not in theater or anything. It was really fun. A lot of that stuff came through with like public speaking, but also like when our team is like doing reels and stuff to promote stuff on social media, I'm giving them feedback or helping with blocking and stuff like that. So it's fun. And I know Davis has a local theater as well. They have a number of shows. They do, I think, auditions, and even Woodland has the opera house or whatever. I had friends be in musicals there, so there's some local stuff, and I know Sacramento has some stuff there as well. So, dive into the deep end and test it out.
There's a improv club on campus too. I think one of my students was in that as well.
Hi, sorry. I know I'm an audience member, but I started voice acting when I was 13, and I started because I found a website. I found like people looking for voices, and I was just like, oh, this seems cool. I should probably go for it. The website is called Casting Call Club. It's really broken. It's a really broken website, but it works. So that's where I started. I know I'm an audience member, but a lot of people were asking about how to start voice acting, and I just wanted to say that that's how I started. Just keep auditioning. Yeah, castingcallclub.com.
I kind of wish I wrote a whole bunch of this stuff down.
It's getting hand recording.
I think one thing is I'm the president of the Screen Actors League in Davis. So we do screen acting. So I can view our Instagram after this, and you can come to our meetings. And not specifically voice acting, but you can definitely start like getting more experience with acting there.
Yeah, some advice that I have, technically, like, I'm not a panelist, but honestly, like, I was really nervous at first too, because, like, I'm a big fan of voice actors, and I've always wanted to try voice acting, but I was really scared. And literally my demo reel, I recorded in my closet. So, honestly, like, I know it's kind of, like, redundant to say, and it's, like, harder to say it, like, like, it's hard, like, to overcome it, but there's, like, like, a mental barrier, and honestly, like, you just have to, like, try to overcome that, and, like, just try to put yourself out there. It's really hard to do that, but again, like, I recorded my demo reel in my closet at, like, 2 in the morning because I didn't want to wake up anyone in my house. But, yeah, like, I took my headshots on, like, my MacBook, like, it's just, like, what you want to, like, do, and, just, like, really, like, try to put yourself out there, like, take yourself, like, out of that comfort zone, because at the end of the day, like, you only live once, wanna try it out, so, yep.
Hello, my name is Kelly and I'm a design major and I've been like struggling with like trying to figure out what I want to do in the future, right? So I'm just like a little bit curious as like how to like like find like a passion in the arts because there's so many different options. I also had a specific question for you, Kat. I was wondering like what are some like common skills or experiences that you need to like be in UI UX design, and how do you stand out? Because I know that it's like super competitive, especially with like tech and stuff.
Are you in the design major already right now?
Yes.
Okay. 3 classes in the design major that have taken, like, given me the confidence to be able to go, like, anywhere in visual communications. And I think that's the thing as far as design goes. I actually, in some ways, I never, like, really liked the term graphic designer because for me, that felt very limiting. And I actually saw my industry more as visual communication. And when you start thinking about visual communication, that can be applied to so many different things. Exhibition design, to photography, to, to message campaigns, to websites, to apps, and everything like that. So the 3 classes that have, like, really given me that solid foundation is Design 113, which I don't know who's going to be teaching it next year, photography, but at least just getting those skills of photography, and just image literacy. How do we utilize images to help tell the story? How do we also then manipulate our photos, not just in Photoshop or anything like that, but consider, is this going to be my main sort of call to action image, my hero image at the very top of a website that I want to go get people inspired, that I want them to, in some ways, like, what we do as visual communicators is we skip over that logic side of the brain and go straight to the emotions. So are we using that image to go get that emotion, or is it going to be something with documentary? Or is it something that it's going to be paired with typography and trying to be able to train our eyes to be able to go think as a computer, even if we're just taking a look at a lens. So that's number one. Typography, 115. Just to be able to then think about the visual hierarchy of our type. Again, jumping that logic side of things, and even like, just basic. What is the largest thing on the page? What is the thing that we want our eyes to go to? What is the thing that, we want people to get angry about, get excited about? So in some ways, that largest thing, it's maybe not necessarily the title of what it is you're creating, but it could be like, design is the best major in the world. It's right there, really, really big. And then we start explaining it a little bit. So in some ways, then it's, thinking about the psychology of how we sort of tell this story. How, what do we want people to see? And in some ways, too, there is a dark side to what we do in that what don't we want people to go see? There was actually a point in my life where, like in grad school, I was like looking at what I do as a graphic designer, and I was thinking, do I lie for a living? Sometimes, essentially it's, just any time that we sort of bring a frame into what we do, we are just presenting one view. And as a designer, in some ways, we are the ones who are determining what view is seen. And now the third one is not my class, but it's 154. That's the message campaign class. For me, that was a way to then think about, okay, how do I then bring in persuasion into the work that I do? How do I persuade with my typography? How do I persuade with my imagery? And how do I tie that all together with that story? That said, 112 is actually kind of fun too, to go add into things. It's usually packed each quarter, but just packed it in, then we can figure it out. But luckily as the teacher, I get to go say who gets to be in the class or not. But with user interface, user experience, I like thinking about that not just related to the products that we are creating, the websites or the apps, but rather, what is life except a really, really big experience? What is a conversation as opposed to, a conversation can be experience. An email that we send out can be experience, because ultimately what we're trying to go do is we want to go understand something about a user, and we want to get them to go do something. What's going to get them to do something with what we present them? In some ways, like at one of my old jobs, I would hear my director just walk by, and I just wanted to go get some brownie points, so I would make sure that I put something fancy and pretty, a new photo or something on my computer to be able to sort of make that sort of optics, those connections and everything like that. So that was just one thing that I did. When we even just writing a love letter or something like that, we don't want to address it to who it may concern. We want to understand who it is that we're trying to go connect to, and connect that through our stuff. And then as far as just trying to find that passion, trying to go find, that drive of what we do. There's this public speaker, I don't know what field he's in, but his name is Simon Sinek, and he did this talk about the power of why. And it's talking about this golden circle. At the center is why, the larger circle is how, and then outside is what. What is what you do? It's sort of as a designer, you create apps, you create websites, you create posters. If we take a look at all of the other designers, everyone does that. The how, that could be a little bit different. It's how do I create all of those? I blend in my writing skills, I blend in my design skills, I blend in photography to sort of help tell this story. And in some ways too, I do have that strange technical engineering brain as I apply it to my design. So that's also how I do the design. But understanding that why in the center, that's usually the hardest to understand, especially as you are just entering into this field. You just being, this goes back to what I was saying about being able to know yourself. But why do you actually do this? Why are you trying to do this? And for me, for all the things that I wanted to do in my life, engineering, I wanted to go design medical technology. As a nurse or in the medical field, I want to go help people. As a storm chaser, I loved in Twister how they were taking that information to go help people and save people through all this. And so for me, my why is I want to help people. At the core of it, I just like helping people. That's why I teach. And when you sort of understand that why, then it sort of broadens your the perspective of what you can actually do. It's like I can help in many different ways. I can take these elements of persuasion, I can take these elements of communication and apply it to anything that I do. And like in this field where, this the design field has always been oversaturated, and then with a lot of the tools out there, the templating and everything like that, how do we prove our worth when a lot of people feel like these tools aren't good enough? It's through understanding that why and also the value that we can provide. I know that that's like very, very vague, but I would always just start off with photography, typography, and persuasion with all of that. Thank you.
Okay. So this will be our last question for the open Q&A. And then we will move into like announcements and stuff. And then whatever time you have after, definitely feel free to like the panelists and like ask more questions if you have them. But this one will be like the last like official question.
So then you go. Hello. Hello, Professor Dunkle. I don't know if you remember me. I was in your class last quarter. Okay, I have one more question, but you kind of already answered it as well. And then this isn't for any particular person, but because I feel like this kind of pertains to all of our panelists. So I am currently pursuing like law school and law. However, I have very like huge interests outside of that. For example, like community education and Filipino American cultural arts. And like also working with students and also creative writing. As you can probably tell because I was in your creative writing class. And I was just like wondering like how do I consolidate all of those passions and also like what I want to do professionally. And like how do I like separate those two or choose like a pathway to go down? You guys have any advice on that?
Hello, nice to see you. You look this big on my screen, but um, I would say never separate your passions, right? You can combine them all, and I mean, I'm not a good person to tell you to, if you are pursuing law because you're passionate about it, then you should do that. If you're interested in creative writing and you want to combine that with, understanding, the like read Carlos Pulasan as a starting point that like America's in the Heart is one of the most beautiful books and heart-wrenching books that I've ever read. Like draw inspiration from if you want to be a writer, draw inspiration from people who have come before you, who've had experiences that speak to your experience. And I would say if you feel like you can make a difference as a lawyer and that's what you're passionate about, then you should follow that. But if you feel like you can make your difference as a creative writer and you're passionate about that, then that's what you should follow. I don't think you should make a decision based on, well, I will make more money as a lawyer, because you don't really even know that, you don't know. I think a lot of the things that you've heard on this panel is people saying that they had to like switch this so they could pay off student loans and they could do this, right? My life's been a big shuffle, right? And a big hustle. But I got to where I wanted to go because I believed in the work that I was doing. And I believe that as a student, that's your path and follow it to where it takes you. Just believe in what you are dreaming to do and go there.
I think just to add to that too, in some ways, I think something that I like tell my students who are like applying for grad school is don't think about the tools that you're going to get. Like a lot of times people say, I want to go to grad school because I want to learn. Whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. You're going to learn. But I ask them, what do you plan to do with that learning? What kind of impact do you plan to make, or what kind of impact do you want to make? When you sort of focus on that, then we will do whatever it takes to do that, whether it is to become a lawyer, whether it becomes like, doing writing. What if it also is like a blend of both? What if then it takes you into a path that you didn't expect? Like, I didn't plan on being a teacher. It just kind of happened in some ways, but it still spoke to that idea of how do I want to help? And in some ways, too, how do I provide somebody else maybe like that voice or that support that maybe I might not have felt that I got when I was younger, too. But in any case, like, think about the impact that you want to make.
I would say that depending on like what career you're wanting looking to like really like analyze and see like what are the opportunities that you have to bring in the different passions that you have. So while I work in higher ed and I've gotten to do a lot of work supporting students and teaching them and helping like develop them, there's ways that we get to be creative. So if you think about like different events that we have on campus, like that's where you get to be creative. Like how can we create something for this community or the student experience? And that requires some creativity to make it want to be like fresh and for students to want to come. I back in the day in K through 12, like I was in choir and I always loved dancing. Well, I don't dance at work. I was a part of a halau and dance traditional and modern hula. Took a break because I have an Achilles injury, but that was a great thing to do outside of work and continue to fuel the artistic part of me or the creative and performer. But whenever I do a workshop or I'm speaking in public, I often joke and be like, I have a show to do. And I see it as a way to perform because a lot of folks will assume that I'm an extroverted person. I think I'm an introverted person who just has been in a lot of extroverted positions. And so, I didn't go through my like positive self-talk, hype myself up, play my Beyonce song, and get ready because anxiety can creep up. And so yeah, if I get a mic, sometimes it's hard to let go of it. And that's probably me wanting to be on like the radio and stuff like that. So if there's those opportunities in the career that you can like bring something else in and be creative, I think that goes back to like making yourself unique and stand out amongst a bunch of other people.
Thank you everyone for like all your questions. They're all great questions, and I love just everyone like helping each other. It was great to also just hear from like the audience members all giving their advice. Thank you. Okay. Where's this mic? All right. Okay. Let's move this real quick. Okay. So just some like closing announcements. This is just like what FILAH has like on the horizon or like out right now. Like I said, our motto is expression is everything. So one of our big things is Kinabukasa magazine, also known as KB Mag, and this was our annual publication. We would print a physical magazine. We actually have like some copies here if you want to see them. But we would basically collect all forms of creative expression, whether that was like essays, poems, photography, art, like really anything. If you like make it, we want to like give a space for it. So we're bringing it back after a 6-year hiatus, and the theme of our magazine this year is focused around rebirth and revival, and it's inspired by the story of like the phoenix, and the theme is Kagandahan mula sa abo, which translates to beauty from the ashes. So yeah, if you're interested in that, that's up there. There's also more details on the form itself and our post. Additionally, we do have board apps open. If you notice, we are a little bit of like a smaller board, and my board is graduating as well. I'm a 3rd year, so I'm looking for anyone who like believes in FILAH's mission and who wants to also just like support what we're doing. Like just providing this career panel is really just talking with how like there's so many like career panels that happen, but maybe not a lot of like humanities career panels, and like we want to continue to be able to provide these things. So board apps are also open for next year. And then if you want to stay up to date for any of our events, or anything that's going on, or want more information, want to reach out to us, questions and whatnot, our Instagram is also up there, and it is FILAH at UCD. So yeah, thank you. Oh my goodness. Okay, and we also just want to open the floor if anyone wants to announce anything like community announcements. Okay.
always have to say your for community announcements. Right. Okay. So if you guys don't know, on campus we have a Philippine culture night happening through Magkakapatid, which is the main FILAH interest board here at UC Davis. If you guys are interested in helping with like any volunteer positions, for PCN, if you didn't have the time to join any like of our official aspects, we're going to be opening applications for our volunteers. So this could include like hair and makeup. If you guys are interested in working on the stage, we also have like stage and props like craft. Applications also open as well. We're going to also have videographer if you guys want to help record the show, ushers, ticket verifiers, and also shirt sale assistants. All help is appreciated. There are about 200 plus participants and 2,000 plus audience members we are expecting. So any help is appreciated. And you can check us out at Magkakapatid PCN on Instagram or talk to me after.
Okay, hey y'all. I'm one of the event coordinators for CSA at UC Davis. It's the Chinese Student Association. So next Tuesday, we will be having our Lantern Festival at TLC 3210 from 8 to 10 p.m. It's just a way to celebrate the end of the Lunar New Year. There will be crafts of lanterns and, just like learning more about like Chinese history as well as, learning more about like Lunar New Year. So if you're interested, our Instagram is CSA at UC Davis. So yeah, or you can just come talk to me and I can give it to you. So thank you.
Any other?
So, if none of you have been to the Lotus Mana Center located on the second floor of the Memorial Union, I want to invite you over to our space. Check it out. Our Instagram is UC_Davis_Lotus Mana Center. You'll see that Lotus. And so we have a number of community events for our Asian and Pacific Islander communities. For those events that you all have, feel free to forward them to us in our DMs so we can help promote and uplift the events that you all are doing. I'll be putting a call out to a lot of the clubs on campus for Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in May to try to compile what everybody's doing to put on one calendar. So anybody who's looking for something to do during that month, there's a spot for them. And we also put your logos on the calendar too, so folks see that we're not the ones that are hosting it. It's a collaborative effort across campus. So definitely come by. We have a couple of events. To round out the quarter, we're going to be having some extended hours for finals for study jams. We typically have a bunch of snacks there too, so come on out.
All right, everybody. If you guys are in the area for Vallejo, a small hometown 40 minutes away from Davis, we have a Vallejo Pista San Nayon festival going on. It's one of the largest Filipino festivals going on in Vallejo, and over there you get to enjoy all types of music, food, dance, tons of performances, lots of fashion shows too that I will be a part of. Also, it's just a lot of people come out and enjoy everything, and if you want to learn more about your culture, that is one of the best ways to do it. And I think you should strongly check out the Instagram. It's called Vallejo Pista San Nayon, just one word. So yes, please check that out.
Okay, does anyone else have any other announcements? Okay, thank you everyone. So we're gonna set up for like a little group picture. We're gonna figure this out.
I feel like we can all like stand in one room. Wait, actually, I'm usually the short one in front of like. Me too. Wait, yeah. Okay. Holding They've got the timer. Oh, right. Oh, it's time. Do they know that? Okay. What's our time? How much time we got?
I have a rope.
Oh! Wait, so
Alright, everybody smile on 3, alright? Ready? 1, 2, 3, hold it. Good.
And yeah, I just want to thank everyone for coming. Yeah, I just want to thank Anne and Iris for like joining us online, making time. I want to thank Kat and Chris for also joining us in person. Thank you so much for your time. Yes. Yeah, and I just thank everyone like who came and just like asked your questions. It means so much to like see you guys come out, and that really just showing that's like you guys find this helpful. I really hope it was helpful. Yeah, and we do have a little feedback form if you want to also fill that out. So yeah, thank you.
Take snacks, y'all.
Yes, take snacks.
There's a lot of rubbish.
I learned this last quarter. Like they started doing it. I was like, I know that. I saw that on Instagram.
Nice to meet you, Anne.
Nice to meet you too. Yeah, thank you.